And if you have a card,
Any cards?
yeah, these are just to show attendance too, so we have a record in the file who's here for this part of the meeting. And if you choose to speak, if you didn't put anything on your card, if you wanted to speak, you'll still get a chance if what you wanted to say wasn't said, so don't worry about that.
After this, I have to hold this up.
Here we go. Ready? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nancy Buchanan, and I am the District Representative in the Water Resources Division of the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, which is the DEQ. I will be serving as the hearings officer for this public hearing on DEQ file number 1261-0055-P. And with me tonight are other Water Resource Division staff that will be assisting me in the hearing, and that is Louis Saldivia, and he's the Grand Rapids District Water Resources Division Supervisor, and also Mike Worm, he's our Grand Rapids District Assistant District Supervisor. So those two are from our division with me tonight. To describe how this is going to work tonight, I will begin with some background information about why we are here. I will then describe the purpose of the hearing and how your comments will be used. Following that, I will outline the procedures under which we will take your comments and then describe what will happen after tonight's hearing. It will then be time for you to provide comments, and we will spend the majority of time tonight receiving those comments. At the end of the hearing, I will provide a short summary in closing. If time allows, after the end of the hearing, staff will be available to informally answer questions and discuss the project with you. And we will close that out. It will not be recorded. By way of background information, the Water Resources Division is responsible for administering a variety of programs that help protect inland lakes and streams, wetlands, floodplains, sand dunes, and the Great Lakes. These programs regulate certain activities such as dredging or filling a lake, stream, or wetland, constructing a dam, constructing a marina, placing shore protection or constructing docks, and building in a designated critical dune area, wetland, or floodplain. The law governing these responsibilities is the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act, 1994, Part 451, as amended. We are here tonight because Mulching has proposed the following. Application for permit 1261-0055-P under Part 301 Inland Lakes and Streams of the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act, 1994, Part 451, as amended. The applicant proposes to construct loading platforms in a ship basin off Muskegon Lake to facilitate safe commercial operations at 2400 Lakeshore Drive. A 40-foot long by 60-foot wide platform will be installed on each side of the ship basin dock. The platforms will be supported upland by steel sheet piling installed above the ordinary high water mark, and on 16 bearing piles installed in the ship basin. No dredging is proposed with this project. The project is located in Town 10 North, Range 17 West, Section 34, City of Muskegon, in Muskegon County. In order for a permit to be granted, the DEQ must find that the proposed activities described in the public notice meet certain criteria set forth by Part 301 Inland Lakes and Streams of Act 451. In general, we must consider the effect of the proposed project on the inland lake when reviewing an application for permit under the provisions of Part 301 Inland Lakes and Streams of Act 451. The DEQ is charged in making the following considerations. Section 30106 of Part 301 requires that 1. The department shall issue a permit if it finds that the structure or project will not adversely affect the public trust or riparian rights. 2. The department shall not grant a permit if the proposed project or structure will unlawfully impair or destroy any of the waters or other natural resources of the state. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to give anyone interested in the mulching proposal an opportunity to provide information that the DEQ can use in making the decision whether or not to issue a permit. Please recognize that the DEQ can only use the information you provide if it relates to the criteria that the DEQ must use in making a decision. Some of you may simply want to express your support or opposition to the project. We will be happy to make note of your position, but please understand that DEQ is by law not allowed to base their decision on whether or not there is widespread support or opposition on the project. In just a moment, I will outline the procedures we will use for taking your comments. But before I do so, I need to mention that the notice of the hearing was published in the Muskegon Chronicle on Wednesday, September 19th, 2012. As you came in this evening, you were given the opportunity to fill out a public comment card. We request that everyone fill out a card to indicate if you wish to make a comment during the hearing. We will use these cards to maintain a record of people interested in the proposed project and to call upon those who would like to speak tonight. To ensure that the hearing is conducted in a fair manner, we will follow these steps. First, the applicant and or his consultant, which tonight Phil Johnson is here to represent Mulching, will have an opportunity to describe the proposed project. Two, we will then call on those who have indicated on the public comment cards that they would like to speak in the general order in which the cards were received. When all the cards have been completed, I will ask if anyone else would like to make a statement. When your name is called, please come up to the microphone, face me. If you're not comfortable with that, face the crowd. We don't really care where you face. If you have written comments, please give them, just bring them up and hand them to me if you have written comments too. Please state your name and then any group or association that you may represent also would be important for us to take note of. Each person will be given 3 minutes to make their comments. I will indicate, or one of us will indicate when you have about 30 seconds left. Please begin wrapping up your comments and end in the allotted time. If need be, I will indicate when your time has ended. I ask that we all be courteous and respectful to one another tonight. Only one person should be speaking at a time. Please do not interrupt a speaker, and please also recognize that the DEQ staff is here tonight to provide a fair opportunity for you to express your comments on the proposed project and to listen to those comments. The hearing will be recorded, and your comments will be part of the information the DEQ will consider in making its decision and whether or not to issue a permit on the proposed project. The public comment period for the public hearing is open for 10 days, starting today and ending October 10, 2012. Additional information and comments submitted in writing during the 10-day public comment period will also be considered in the DEQ's decision. Additional information and comments may be submitted to me, Nancy Kincannon, at DEQ, Water Resources Division, Grand Rapids District Office, 350 Ottawa Avenue Northwest, Grand Rapids, 49503, and I have a whole box of my cards, so don't worry if you can get that. Just come up and get a card at the end of the hearing. Following the closing of the public comment period, the DEQ will make a decision to either issue a permit for the project as proposed, or with modifications, or send a letter of denial. You may find out what the decision is by checking the DEQ website at www.michigan.gov/DEQ. Click on permits, then scroll down to permit tracking and click on the Coastal and Inland Lakes Water Permit Information System. Thank you for your attention. I will now ask the applicant to briefly describe the proposed project, and then I will begin calling the names of those who have indicated that they would like to make a statement. Go ahead, Phil.
Thank you, Nancy. I know that's not going to fit there, so we'll just kind of set it like this. There's another one down there. My name's Phil Johnson. I'm with Resource Planning and Design. I'm a natural resource consultant, environmental planner. My role more is to the future. I was here earlier listening to all the comments, very good comments, and hopefully as we move forward, this site will become all that we hope it will be. For those who read comments in the newspaper yesterday, those largely I've made, and I certainly hope, and so does Mulching, that we are able to move in that direction. This evening's public hearing is,
Maybe we should move that front.
Since it's being recorded by the DEQ recorder, I think this will pick me up probably, David. Tonight's public hearing is a request by Melching to install 2 loading platforms, 60 feet wide, 40 feet reaching out into the basin. What you're seeing here on the site plan is the plan view of the existing ship basin where the 2 loading platforms would be placed. Here's a cross-sectional view of the existing profile of the bottom of the ship basin there. Here's a cross-section of how those are going to be constructed. The purpose of them is to facilitate just safe usage of this basin, whether it be for loading scrap metal onto barges or any other future uses that may be approved. No dredging's proposed. All materials that are used are non-polluting. The installation of the piles and the structure, no pollution is anticipated. Nancy gave a great description of the proposed activity that she read initially. I think with that, as far as the activities that are proposed in the basin, we could open it up to questions. Or, I'm sorry, however the department wishes to handle the...
You got us all excited.
We're gonna go with comments,
Gotcha.
and then at the
Okay.
end of the formal
All right.
hearing, we can close it, and then there can be more questions.
As far as the structures, what wasn't proposed, that was initially contemplated, was a cribbing structure where they would actually put in steel sheet pile and then infill it. What this does, as you can see in the cross-section, it sits above the existing water profile and the side slope, sitting on the bearing piles that are part of the permit application request.
Good, thank you, Phil. Okay, here we go. I am really sorry, I'm terrible with names, but I'm just trying my best. The first person is Willie, is it German? Come on up, Willie.
Thank you, and asked the question when gentleman said he's looking to the future, and that's pretty much where I'm looking at. First of all, I want to say that I'm very concerned about the safety of our water and the citizens in this community. So I feel that safety is definitely first. But my question is, to the future, is there a master plan of what Melching is going to do with this property, and are there any potential prospects right now looking to invest in any of this property?
Thank you. Okay, the next person is Steve Schiller.
You dropped your card.
Yes, good afternoon, or good evening. I've lived on Muskegon Lake my whole life. I'm very aware of what's been poured into that lake since the 60s. I live very close to this site. I'm very concerned. I've watched tug and barge operations before, and when tugs come in, they have a deep prop that stirs up the bottom for a long way. I've even watched tugs before that have been used for actually dredging particular slips out that did not have enough water, and they'll use their prop wash to actually take these sediments and distribute them out farther out into the lake. So I'm a little bit worried about a tug coming in there with a barge, because I'm certain that that will stir up a lot of the toxic sediments that are in the lake. Over the years, I've spent a lot of time in that area, and in the last 2 years, we have seen a huge increase in turtle population in that particular slip right there. There had never been turtles in that area for many, 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 many years. And in the last 2 years, believe it or not, we are starting to get a huge amount of turtles back into that basin right there. And I'm sure you know, as being part of the DEQ, that turtles are a lot of times a good factor to tell you if we have good water quality or not. And I think that This is a good sign that this is maybe coming back right now, and I fear that should this be allowed, that this would destroy the turtle population within that slip. I'm also worried about noise. I'm not sure if noise is part of a permit or not, but living approximately 1.5 miles away from the paper mill right now, or the melting site, and directly on the water actually acts as almost like a speaker. And the reflection of any noise and everything makes a huge amount of noise of just a short distance away. A lot of times I can be sitting in my house, people think that they're talking in their normal tone, and they actually are, 100 yards away from my house, and I can hear them just like they're talking right next to me. So any types of noise or anything that would be generated from that site during the off hours and everything, obviously would be a huge negative to me. Thank you for listening to my comments.
Thank you. Okay, next one up is Robert Jennings.
I'm going to turn my back to Mr. Alexander. I know he won't take it personally. That's true. My name is Robert Jennings, and I'm really concerned about the microphone. First of all, thanks for coming, folks tonight. I talked with Ms. Dixon there earlier. I wanted her to understand that we are very vocal, we're very concerned about our community, we're very frustrated, and a few of us are downright angry. The people that spoke about concerns have done that at the City Commission. Noise, particulates, whatnot. We do not trust our City Commission. They have a record here of not being concerned. I am heartened tonight that one of our commissioners did come up and say he was concerned about water quality. We don't see that kind of action on our City Commission agenda or the meetings. Okay. We've had a standard oil dock on the eastern end, and when those tankers came in, when they were done pumping, the hoses would come down and the water would just be flooded with oil. If these folks out here, like me, losing their hair and gray heads will think back of the greasy, slimy mess that lake was, and as the gentleman remarked earlier, the turtles are coming back. We're seeing all kinds of healthy signs here. Now, when ships come in, barges come in, and they're loaded and unloaded, who is going to make sure that that is not a polluting influence back in those waters? Anytime that you have that kind of traffic, you're going to have noise, you're going to have particulates in the air. If they're coming in and cutting up metal, getting it ready to load on barges, there's got to be a noise factor there. A lady who was here tonight complained to the commission about the noise from, she called it, shredder, and the mayor said, there's no shredder down there. Well, I don't care if you call it a shredder or a mix master or a butter churn. It is noisy, it affects the community in a negative way, and we need some assurance here that this is not going to be another one of those dirty, polluted messes that will set us back decades in the efforts to clean that lake up. Thank you very much.
All right, next person is Shanty Debbie.
Well, as you know, probably, Muskegon Lake is an area of concern. And, it's well known that a significant portion of amount of the sites that are areas of concern come directly because there was a paper mill on that site. Now, we know there's 100 years of pollution in those sediments in the lake, what's in the basin. Doesn't make sense to me that you haven't tested that basin if they're going to be wanting to do stuff in that basin. I've seen reports about the sediment that's outside of Muskegon, right outside of that property in the lake, and It does not look like healthy mud. It looks like gelatin, gray gelatin with pieces of mud in it. It doesn't look like it, it's a healthy lake yet. And, a lot of this has come from the paper mill. We know that. And so, all along this process, we have not had much transparency. We've been asking for this meeting since January. And we don't have a lot of trust for Doug Melching either because of trying to blow up the smokestack without getting DEQ approval. A smokestack that's had pollutants going up it for many, many years. So, we want to trust in what you're doing, and we've been watching the process, and a lot of us are very frustrated. We're glad that you're here. We want to have more time to ask more questions. We know that the right thing to do is a complete evaluation of that property before anything else happens with it. And, just hoping that you really are doing due diligence with all this stuff. And to me, so far, it doesn't seem like it, because it makes sense. Of course, common sense is not a thing. It makes sense to test that water outside there.
Thank you. Leonard Sand.
My name's Leonard Sand, and I live just to the west of Sappi and the condominiums there. And some of the things, I've got questions about the permit itself. Under section 6, it says easements and other permits. It's checked no. And one of the things that's in there, is there a conservation easement or other easement or deed restrictions? So is there deed restrictions on that part of the parcel where this is going in? And next, under section 8, adjacent property owners, it says see the attached list where people are notified. The only thing it says on here is Muskegon Country Club. Nobody at Balkans Cove is notified of any of this, other than just from what you picked up out of the paper. And the other thing is that one pile, it looks like it's out in the lake rather than inside the property line. Either northwest. So if you draw a straight line across, even outside of the trees, maybe you pull that back in a few feet, otherwise it's in the lake. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. David Nye.
Hello, my name is David Nye. I'm with the Muskegon Concerned Citizens Coalition. I was hoping I would speak a little bit later once I found out what other people have brought up, but I do want to say that my watchword for most things has always been trust but verify. The contamination that is currently in the lake and the lake bottom, what numbers do we have on that? And it's been brought up that there has been some testing done, but it hasn't been published as far as I'm aware. Now, just common sense once again says that 100 years worth of pollution on that lake bottom is going to create an issue if you're going to have, once again, prop wash, as one fellow brought up. And furthermore, I have heard from local property owners on the lake that there are some areas of that lake that rather unusually do not seem to freeze over in the winter near the shoreline of Mr. Melching's property. So if you're going to be driving piles in that area, you may be unearthing decades worth of who knows what, honestly. So I suppose I will leave it at that, except to say, as far as the testing procedures that I've seen outlined so far for the property in general, there seems to be an issue of the ability of the Sappi Corporation to determine what gets tested and what does not. What I'm I'm wondering is, does the DEQ even have any authority to compel Mr. Melching to test on any particular portion or parcel of that site, or is it all subject to Sappi's approval? I've seen a lot of dancing around that, but I haven't seen any direct answers. Does the DEQ have the ability to compel testing on any given site, and what are the criteria that are being used in order to determine what tests are done and where? Honestly, I have seen a lot from Mr. Melching that I would like to bring up that his interests are that nothing be found. There was some talk earlier about what is in Melching's interests. What is in Melching's interest, considering that he has accepted full responsibility for all the contamination on that property by purchasing it without conducting a baseline environmental assessment. He has legally assumed responsibility for any contamination that may be found. Therefore, it is in his business interests that no contamination be found by whatever means necessary. Now, I'm not accusing him of falsifying anything, but I'm saying that there has to be stringent oversight of any testing that is done in order to, as many investors in small junior precious metal mining companies have found out to their chagrin, it is an easy matter to falsify geological data, geological testing. And it requires a large amount of knowledge and a large amount of attention to detect any such deception. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Anway? Anway? Okay.
My name is Bill Anway. I'm a citizen in this community in Hubbardtown. And I just want to express my concerns. One thing that was surprising to me tonight in the earlier discussion was that really no testing of the sediment area really has been done, when probably everyone in the room recognizes there has been pollution in that area. And when we are driving pilings into that location, that's certainly going to disturb the sediment, and there's certainly going to be some distribution of the pollutants in that area into the lake and into the soil. Appropriately so, wells have been driven more into the demolition area of the structures, but I am very surprised that the DEQ has not really examined that area to be able to monitor it and determine any spiking that might be caused by the construction of these pilings. Although this isn't for the DEQ, it's more for the vision of community of Muskegon. We have a very valuable asset here in Muskegon Lake. I grew up in Grand Rapids, I lived in Grand Haven for 10 years, and I lived in Lansing, and I think Muskegon has a unique opportunity to build upon this lake an area that's going to attract people to the community, rather than building a dock which is going to maybe possibly be a place where it's going to be a rendering location for scrap metal, especially if it's being brought in from other sites other than what's located here. That certainly is not a vision, I think, that we want for Muskegon. I know the area in Holland, as I have friends in Holland of the rendering plant there. That is not perceived very favorably in that area, but that's been there a long time. I just think we have an opportunity at this point to really have a vision for Muskegon that's going to really build towards the future, that people are going to be wanting to move to Muskegon rather than away. Thank you for the opportunity.
Richard, is it Wayne? Wayne? Okay.
How are you? We have here, probably in a lifetime, an opportunity to stop this and create what was existing, lake was coming back to its normals, and we're very, very pleased with its success. And out comes this, I just cannot believe we're to this point of failure to stop or deter this type of progress. I really do. It just shocks me that it's there. I'm confused on one thing. Are they going to build this dock strictly for what's on the property now, or are they going to accept scrap material? Does anybody know?
The latter.
Just remember, we can't answer questions during this period.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll try and answer your questions after.
Okay. I'm going to assume that they are going to invest in the scrapyard. I think that's the common thing that's being talked about. And common scrapyards are going to require to have settling ponds or cleansing ponds, or whatever they call it. And if you ever want to smell anything that smells bad, smell a cleansing pond, it will make Sappi look like a rose garden. It's just that bad. And it will carry right across the water. Those are basically my two things. I'm very concerned about the settling the building of settling ponds and going that forward. There is no way that this can be monitored all the time. And thank you for your time.
Okay, James. Rudio?
You're close. Rudisell.
Oh, C-I-L. Oh, I apologize.
Jim Rudisell, in the earlier meeting you held for the community, I brought up the issue of dust control, and with the proposal here, unless there's an awful lot of paving going on in this facility, if they're gonna be trucking stuff in, the dust is gonna be a huge issue. There are like 8 marinas on the south side of Muskegon Lake, high-quality marinas, and any dust that gets on sailboats or boats can have a detrimental effect on a whole lot of livelihoods here in Muskegon. Just the other comment I would make, when this site was, or the sale was first announced, I think the community really got upset when Sappi stated that there would be no residential, no commercial, had to be used for industrial. And now here, quite a few months later, there are some ongoing discussions that the property is not as polluted as they thought, that there are going to be some opportunities for other than commercial possibly. That's what was in the newspaper. So I would just like to have the DEQ do whatever they can to ensure that if the site is cleaned up or found not to be polluted, that they really push the present owner to do a whole lot more than just have a scrap processing piece of property. It has this piece of property will impact everybody in Muskegon, my grandchildren, my children, and their children for many, many years. So this is a big decision, and we hope you take all that in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Cynthia Price?
I am Cynthia Price, the president of Muskegon Sabre Shoreline, although I'm not necessarily addressing you based on that, but there are a number of our board members present, so I think it probably is the sentiment of Muskegon Sabre Shoreline. However, I am not going to take very much time because people have already said that the thing that is of utmost concern to me in terms of the permit, which is that the methodology, I'm hoping that the DEQ makes sure that the methodology is not going to disrupt potentially contaminated sediments. And also I'm hoping that the DEQ makes sure that they've characterized those sediments before they allow any work to go on. Thank you.
Okay, Donna, is it C4 Pennington?
And thank you for the opportunity to provide some testimony this evening on an issue that is so important to the future of my community. I am a public employee myself and like to think that I try to safeguard the public trust, and I will say that after listening to you tonight, I feel reassured that you are trying to safeguard the public trust in this matter. I live on Muskegon Lake. I join hundreds of other local residents who bike and walk and run on the Lakeshore Trail. I paddle my kayak around the Muskegon Lake Beach in the channel, and I have a small powerboat that I keep at the Great Lakes Marina. I've listened to sailors tell me that Muskegon Lake is one of the best sailing lakes in the Midwest. Some say even in North America. You may have seen that Yachting Magazine just selected us as the 23rd best yachting town in the United States, even ahead of Newport, Rhode Island. I have watched the federal government pour millions and millions of dollars into cleaning up and restoring Muskegon Lake. So now, I'm asking you, the public officials that I trust to represent me and the citizens of West Michigan, to consider very carefully whether you will approve a permit that will facilitate, in my mind, both a short-term and a long-term operation of a large scrap metal processing operation right smack in the middle of the marinas and the bike path and the 23rd best yachting town in the United States. I have been told that it will be better to ship the metal than to truck the metal, but I have witnessed the level of noise that the loading up of cargo ships can create, and I'm not sure it's the noise that my fellow kayakers or bikers or sailors or the folks sleeping in the marina are going to want to hear. And I now understand, though, that noise isn't your department, so I'll have to send those comments back to the people who are in charge of noise. I wonder about the smells and the airborne contaminants that may be stirred up in the lake that we have just spent so much money restoring. I'm kind of curious about where the Grand Valley scientists are who are working so hard on restoring the lake, and I'm wondering if they are offering their input as well. And the suspicious side of me wonders if the Lewis Padnos influence at Grand Valley State is having anything to do with the fact that they don't seem to be here. Years ago, the pulp mill operation sometimes caused a very noxious smell to pervade the Muskegon Lake area. My girlfriend Joni says that her mother would always warn her not to complain about that, because that's the smell of money, Joni. That's the smell of that money of hundreds of workers earning good salaries to support their families. I am hoping that my grandchildren won't be subjected to the noxious noise and smells and fumes and polluted water that could result from this kind of operation, and that I won't have to say to them, that's the sound of millions of dollars being made by scrap metal dealers who were assisted by our public officials in doing so, and without creating those hundreds of good paying jobs. So essentially, I'm really asking you to safeguard the environmental quality of what is perhaps Muskegon's most valuable resource. Thank you.
Dan Mills.
Hi, thanks, yeah. Name's Dan Mills, 49445. I'm going to keep it to just one issue here, and even though there's a lot of things I'd like to talk about, but this one issue has to do with, man, I'm going to end up drawing an analogy too, and there's going to be just a little bit of time where you're going to wonder, why is he talking about LA when we're here in Muskegon? But when O.J. Simpson got let off, I understand that the reason for that really was that the LA Police Department was caught in a lie, and that in the court of law, where standards are pretty high, if somebody's caught lying, they throw out all the testimony. They don't let them participate anymore at all. Okay, now, video speaks a lot louder than talking, and my points that I'm gonna make. And so I'm gonna send you, each of you, 2 links to 2 videos early on at the beginning of this year. And I don't wanna use the word lie, but Melching and his cronies were caught lying repeatedly over and over and over again. And you don't have to take my word for it, you can look at the video. When that smokestack was coming down, 3 days hence, everything was clean. All the permits were on order. When the smokestack was not taken down, because some of my friends made calls to the responsible agencies, the story was, well, Melching found some contaminants, and so stop the show. Another lie. Melching came in here and presented the demo crew bringing the smokestack down. Never had an accident, they're nothing professional. So you get on the internet and you see the smokestack coming down the wrong way, wires being ripped off the poles and hitting their own little kids. Lie after lie after lie. The Sappi plant is not on the floodplain. This is in a video at Bunker School. So the 2 videos, one of them are right here with our city attorney, our city officials present in chorus, like in the background chorus, of yay, Melching. And then the other one is at Bunker School when he meets the public with his big plan, with this site development. Now Melching doesn't show up anymore, and it's because, as Mr. Turnquist says, because we gave him such a rough time. Well, what happened was he got caught in so many lies, he doesn't want to come around anymore. And I don't know how it is that you can let him have any participation in testing the site at all when he is such a liar. Thank you.
Roger Nye.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Roger Nye. I'm here on behalf of the Concerned Citizens Coalition and Occupy Muskegon. My take on this comes from somewhat a different angle. I have a map of the Muskegon Lake shoreline in 1930, and next to it I have the same map with an overlay of the present shoreline. As you see, in 1930 there was a whole lot of water out there. Today there's a whole lot of land where that water was. I'd like to show this to the audience, please. Now, a knowledgeable person told me that this is a fairly common situation along the Muskegon Lake waterfront. That slag, concrete, all kinds of other materials, perhaps roofing materials also, were simply dumped in the lake. And eventually dirt was put over them. Now, my informant tells me that apparently the paper companies did get legal title somehow to this newly created land. I'm not sure just how. I'm not a legal historian or a lawyer. Perhaps the law basically told them, help yourself toward the lake bottom. Or perhaps they simply took the land and then sued to have title quieted under what's known as adverse possession. In any event, there seems to be a question as to what part of the newly created land is covered, to what part of the newly created land does the Melching Corporation now have title? That is to say, what part of that newly created land did S.D. Warren have title to? And I think that before doing anything in this matter, it's up to you folks at DEQ to investigate and make sure that the Melching Corporation establishes its title to the part of the site in question. This is simply not property that was created by, let's say, the paper companies saying that this was a natural accretion or something like that. So, question is, how do you get title to lake bottom like this? Is this in the public interest? This is basically a reflection of 82 years of corporate greed. And whether it was legal or not, theft. Thank you very much.
That is all the cards we have for people to check. They would like to talk. Is there anybody else who would like to talk and check? Great. Okay.
Hi, I'm Marcia Alexson. I live in Bluffton. I've been very interested in this whole process. I have to agree with this gentleman back here that I think we all started out being quite trusting of Mr. Melton. At least I did. I thought, somebody's got to tear down that bunch of junk there, and that's going to make a big mess when they do that. I think the problem has become, however, that we're not sure that Mr. Melton is just going to tear down this junk and make his money and be out of there or sell it, or if he is going to continue to want to run a business like that on our shoreline. Because it is just too important of a piece of shoreline to be a scrap metal place. It really is.
Hold on one second. We gotta switch the tapes, sorry.
We want to record you, so hold on one second.
Oh, good.
We're kind of old school here.
Tapes, yeah, no kidding. Cassette tapes.
Alright. You
I think Mr. Melton could redeem himself a whole lot with a number of us if he would come out and say he's tearing down the Sappi thing. He's not planning to continue to use that very valuable property as a scrapyard. There are other places to put scrapyards besides a piece of property that has a very important place in Muskegon's history and in going forward. I'm asking him to clarify whether he is simply going to take care of the mess that we have there now, or if he plans to have a mess going there now for the next 100 years. Thank you.
My name's Robert Titus, and I own a slip in Harbortown. But I work construction, and I see a lot of these scrap yards around, because they have to use a crane once in a while, and that's what we do. So, being a property owner, there's another one, I'm a little concerned about if this scrap yard, or this operation is going to be another one of these scrap yards I see around, that they have a fair amount of pollution themselves. This is a retention pond. Lots of oil, contaminants. I don't want to see the shoreline looking like this.
Amen.
I know this board is just,
Absolutely.
looking at facts and figures. I think more facts and figures need to be found. I think you're gonna find some reason, maybe, to not allow this permit. If that would stop this from happening, that would be a good thing for all of us. So just take that into consideration if you would.